I'm very sorry to say there's four things that are going to make inflation have a resurgence and make a comeback in 2025. And we're talking about it now. 6 months from now, everybody's going to be talking about it, and they'll be looking back and seeing, well, here's why inflation kicked back in. I'm telling you ahead of time, just like I did with gold when nobody understood it, and then they come late to the game once things play out. Same thing's going to happen with inflation. And I'll tell you the four things that are going to make inflation go up in 2025. Monetary creation, the tariff war and responses to it, all the ICE raids and tougher border controls, and lower interest rates. These things are going to combine, really driving up inflation. And there's other things too that will also make inflation go higher, but these are the ones that stood out to me, and these will be the primary price drivers for inflation rates going forward in 2025. One of the major things that's going to really drive inflation strongly is monetary creation, things like quantitative easing, when they print new money to cover over the expenses that we've already taken on. This is why every once in a while you hear them every few quarters saying, oh my gosh, the government's run out of money, like it's a big surprising thing, even though it happens again and again and again. And it will continue to happen again and again, and they will always do what they always do, which is to deteriorate the value of the US dollar by creating more of it to cover over their expenses. They're living off of the credit card. And when you see somebody who's living off their credit card, just living it up, driving a fancy car, fancy clothes, you don't say, wow, they're doing well. You say, wow, they're really going into debt. That's exactly what's going on. Everyone seems to be completely ignoring it. It's completely being ignored that we're just wasting and spending so much more money than we have created. This cannot go on forever, even though some people will tend to just ignore it completely, which is what everyone's doing. It'll not go on forever. You always hear things like kicking the can down the road and getting to the edge of the cliff. That's where we are. We're here. And I've told you this even a couple of years ago, where we always say, well, we'll put it on our grandchildren's shoulders. Well, that day is here now. We are the grandchildren. We got to figure out how to fix this, because right now we're not doing anything to fix it. We're just every few quarters saying, oh my gosh, we run out of money again. We don't have enough money to pay for federal workers. What do we do? What do we do? And it's just preposterous, ridiculous, and they never fix the underlying problem, which is why we'll be talking about it again next time. And hey, by the way, time out. Pause. If you want more from me, you want to ask me anything, you want to get a special newsletter that we put out on the side, the exclusive only for subscribers to the Peter Leeds Insiders, you can become a Peter Leeds Insider. Ask me anything you want. Have direct email contact with me. Just go to peterleeds.com/insiders. Insiders are the pivotal force that drives the entire Peter Leeds brand, and I hold you guys, you insiders, in a higher regard than anybody else, and you see it playing out when you ask me a question. I'm in favor of tougher borders. I think that you have to have a tough border to have a country. Otherwise, you're just a place where people just gather from all over the world. So tougher borders will restrain inflation. Also, the ICE raids are going to go after illegal workers, which I'm not making a comment politically about that at all. But I'm just telling you that one of the results of that will be low salary workers. Even though they're illegal, they're working for a fraction when you have to pay an actual legitimate American employee. So long story short, there will be more expenses, less productivity for businesses that used illegal labor. I'm not making a comment either way, but I'm just saying that as we crack down, that will cause inflation to go higher, because there will be more expenses and less productivity for all the companies in the industry that are using illegal labor. Another major one for inflation is going to be when they lower rates, and they're going to continue to lower rates, possibly even this week, but into 2025, they'll be lowering rates throughout the year. And as they do that each time, it just stokes and fuels and feeds inflation. It's a fueling of the economy, and that in itself is fueling inflation. And the other big one, the new one, is these tariff wars, where the logic makes sense to impose tariffs on products from other countries so that then the purchasers, the Americans, are less likely to pay for the product from another country because it costs more for them, because there's an extra tax on it because it's from a tariffed country. It's not putting a tax on Chinese people. It's not putting a tax on Canadians. It's putting a tax on American civilians. And that is going to be inflationary. And the other thing is that there's not a lot of products or alternatives. If you don't buy a plastic swimming pool from China, You don't buy a Canadian-made or an American-made one or a Mexican-made plastic swimming pool because it costs more, or it's not even created, not even available. There's not a lot of manufacturing being done in North America. It's all being done in Asia. But we've seen some of the first responses to Trump saying, I'm going to put tariffs on Canada, for example. I see this because I'm here in Canada most of the time. When I'm not in Detroit and I see it on the news, you hear people talking about it.
And the premiers came out swinging.
We need to be ready. We need to be ready to fight. This fight is coming, 100%.
It's an all-hands-on-deck response to Donald Trump's threat to slap Canadian goods with a 25% tariff over concerns about the border.
Canada has already come out and said things like, and I don't think they're going to do any of this, but cutting off water, cutting off energy supplies. There's all sorts of things that Canada has that Americans buy because they need it. Value for value. It's worth it for them to pay for the things that we're producing out of Canada, for example. Now it costs more to buy the things that are produced in Canada for American citizens, but there's not an alternative in America. You're not buying maple syrup from San Diego.
Justin Trudeau has also floated retaliatory tariffs.
We will, of course, as we did 8 years ago, respond to unfair tariffs.
Ford took that further, threatening to stop Ontario energy exports.
We will go to the full extent, depending how far this goes. We will go to the extent of cutting off their energy.
So it's bad news, and I know I'm smiling, but I'm trying to work on smiling more when I'm on video. I believe that these four things, in addition to a few others as well, are going to combine to really bring inflation back. We thought it was behind us. We thought we had it under control, and we did for a while. And as I told you then, as it starts to fall, once it starts to fall, it falls pretty quickly. And now we're coming down to the point where we are going to get into this turning of the inflation. The inflationary forces are going to be driving inflation higher levels going forward, not lower. If for you that means that all these things about paying too much for grocery prices, those days are not behind us. They are still ahead of us. Things like gold will do really well as inflation really kicks back in, and you'll see it in concert. As inflation starts to tick up, every read, it'll go higher and higher, slowly. Gold will continue to respond during that whole time, increasing over time. As inflation rises, so will gold. If you want to get the benefit of our hard work and our specialized knowledge, just join the Peter Leeds world-famous stock pick newsletter at peterleeds.com. We put a lot of low-price stocks through 29-point Leeds analysis. We look at every aspect of the company and decide price points and where we think the stock's going to go. These are low-price stocks just getting started, so they've got most of their growth yet ahead of them. That's what we specialize in finding for you. Turn a few $100s into a few thousand pretty quickly, and we do it again and again and again.